Those were the last words my father said to me before I walked out of our family home in Pittsburgh, carrying everything I owned in a duffel bag and a cardboard box. I was 23 years old, had just quit my secured job at my uncle's accounting firm and withdrawn my life savings of $17,834 to pursue what my family called a pipe dream. My name is Daniel Reyes, and this is how I built a $30 million business while everyone who should have believed in me predicted my failure. Growing up in a traditional Puerto Rican family meant expectations were clear: get educated, find secure employment, start a family, and never, ever take unnecessary risks. My father worked the same factory job for 37 years. My mother taught second grade at the same elementary school her entire career. My older brother followed my father into manufacturing. My sister became a nurse, just like our aunt. Security, stability, predictability, these were the highest values in the Reyes household. I was always the outlier. While other kids played video games, I set up lemonade stands with tiered pricing based on temperature and time of day. In high school, I built a small business detailing cars in our neighborhood, reinvesting profits to add services until I had 3 classmates working for me. My parents called it cute, but made it clear these were hobbies, not career paths. When I graduated college with an accounting degree, my father's choice, not mine, I dutifully took the job my uncle offered at his small firm. The pay was decent, the benefits were good, and my family was pleased. I was miserable. Each day felt like slowly drowning, pushing papers and reconciling accounts for businesses that were building something while I just documented it. The idea came to me while working on a client's books. A small manufacturing company that produced specialized industrial fasteners. They were struggling with quality control issues and international competition, but had a loyal customer base who appreciated their quick turnaround times and customization options. During a meeting where I was supposed to be discussing tax strategy, I couldn't help but offer operational suggestions. The owner, Mr. Keller, listened intently. "You know," he said afterward, "you think more like an entrepreneur than an accountant." Those words haunted me for weeks. I started researching the industrial parts industry in my spare time, identifying gaps in the market, specifically in specialized components for emerging tech manufacturing. Companies needed custom parts quickly with precision specifications and were willing to pay premium prices for reliability and speed. Large manufacturers were too rigid, small machine shops too limited in capability. I saw the opportunity, a nimble operation using advanced manufacturing techniques, focusing exclusively on high precision. Small batch components with guaranteed turnaround times, half the industry standard. The margins would be exceptional if executed properly. When I told my family about my idea at Sunday dinner, the reaction was immediate and unanimous. Manufacturing? In this economy, my father scoffed. Chinese factories are putting American companies out of business every day. You don't know the first thing about running a factory, my uncle added. You've only seen businesses on paper. What about your 401k? Your health insurance? My mother's concerns were practical. My brother just laughed. So you're going to compete against billion-dollar corporations with what? Your savings account. Only my grandmother remained silent, watching me with those knowing eyes that had seen her own husband start and lose 3 businesses before settling into factory work himself. 2 weeks later, I quit my job. The family emergency meeting that followed was predictable: please to reconsider, warnings about financial ruin, reminders of cousins who had failed in business ventures. When logical arguments failed, emotional manipulation began. You're breaking your mother's heart, my father said. After all we sacrificed for your education. I tried explaining my vision, the market research, the preliminary discussions with potential clients. Nobody listened. To them, I was abandoning security for a fantasy. When my father delivered his parting shot about throwing my life away, I knew discussion was pointless. I left that night, moving into a tiny apartment closer to the industrial area where I planned to set up shop. My first factory was 1,200 square feet of rented space in a rundown industrial park. My equipment was secondhand, purchased from companies that had gone out of business. My first employee was Carlos, a master machinist who had been laid off when his previous employer outsourced production to Mexico. He thought I was crazy too, but he needed work and I was offering better pay than the warehouse jobs he'd been applying for. "How long do you think we'll last?" he asked bluntly on our first day. "Long enough to prove everyone wrong," I replied, not feeling nearly as confident as I sounded. The first 6 months were brutal. 18-hour days, sleeping on a cot in my office, eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches to conserve cash. I made cold calls during the day and worked on prototypes at night. For every 10 potential clients who dismissed us, one would give us a chance on a small order. I priced our services at break-even levels initially, focusing on building relationships and proving our capabilities. What we lacked in size, we made up for in responsiveness. When a client called with an emergency order at 9 p.m., they'd find me already at the shop, ready to discuss specifications. While our competitors required minimum orders of thousands, we'd happily produce 50 specialized components. When one client needed design modifications mid-production, we adjusted without complaint or excessive fees. Our reputation began to grow. 3 months in, we landed our first significant contract, producing specialized connectors for a medical device company. The job required purchasing additional equipment, which meant securing a loan. 5 banks rejected me before a small local credit union took a chance, partly because I brought and confirmed purchase orders as evidence. At the 6-month mark, I hired 2 more machinists. At 9 months, we moved to a larger facility and added a dedicated quality control specialist. By our 1-year anniversary, Precision Partners, the name I'd chosen for its simplicity and focus, had 12 employees and had tripled its initial revenue projections. During this time, contact with my family was minimal. Monthly calls to my mother consisted of her concerns about my health and subtle inquiries about when I'd come to my senses. My father rarely came to the phone. My siblings sent occasional texts, usually sharing news about their stable careers and growing families, reminders of what I was missing while chasing my dream. I didn't tell them about our growth, about the patents we'd filed for innovative manufacturing processes, about the major technology companies that were beginning to send us RFUs, about the profile in a regional business journal that called us the future of American specialty manufacturing. Their minds were made up and I was too busy building to waste energy changing them. In our 2nd year, everything accelerated. A major aerospace contractor found us through a referral and needed components that met their exacting standards. Their first order was small, a test obviously, but we delivered not only on spec but 3 days early. Their second order was 10 times larger. We expanded again, moving to a 25,000 square foot facility and investing in cutting-edge equipment that allowed us to produce components other small manufacturers couldn't match. Our workforce grew to 45, then 60. I hired experienced managers to handle day-to-day operations while I focused on client relationships and strategic growth. The aerospace contract led to others in adjacent industries. Our reputation for quality and reliability spread through industry networks. By the end of year 3, Precision Partners had annual revenue exceeding $7 million with profit margins double the industry average. We weren't just surviving, we were thriving in a sector where American companies were supposed to be failing. It was around this time that I received an unexpected call from my uncle. "I'm hearing things," he said without preamble. "About your company." "What kinds of things?" I asked, surprised he was tracking us at all. "One of my clients mentioned working with a game-changing parts manufacturer. Didn't realize it was you until they showed me your catalog." There was a new note in his voice I couldn't quite identify. Not quite respect, not quite interest, something closer to confusion. "We're doing all right," I said, the understatement deliberate. "Your father asks about you," he added before hanging up, though he'd never admit it. 2 weeks later, a formal-looking envelope arrived at my office. Inside was an invitation to my family's annual Christmas gathering, the first I'd received since leaving. At the bottom, in my grandmother's shaky handwriting, "Es hora de volver a casa." Time to come home. I debated not going. Business was consuming every waking hour as we negotiated potential expansion into European markets. And truth be told, I wasn't eager to face the family that had so thoroughly dismissed my ambitions. But something about my grandmother's note pulled at me. She had been the only one who hadn't actively tried to dissuade me from my path. When I arrived at my parents' house that Christmas Eve, the reaction was strained politeness rather than warm embrace. Conversation at dinner carefully avoided any mention of my business, focusing instead on my cousin's achievements, neighborhood gossip, and my mother's new recipes. "Huh." My father turned to my brother. "Your brother, the big-shot businessman now." The words could have been proud, but his tone made them sound like an accusation. My brother forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. "How many people work for you now?" my uncle asked. 73, I answered. The table fell silent. My mother looked up from her dessert, surprise evident in her expression. 73 families, my grandmother said quietly, speaking for the first time that evening. 73 families with food on their tables because of my grandson's vision. She reached across the table and patted my hand, her eyes shining with something I hadn't seen from my family in years, pride. The The moment passed quickly, conversation shifting to other topics, but something had changed. No one was ready to admit they'd been wrong about me, but the seed of recognition had been planted. Year 4 brought even more dramatic growth. We secured contracts with European clients, established a research division focused on developing proprietary manufacturing processes, and crossed the $15 million revenue threshold. I purchased my first home, nothing ostentatious but certainly more comfortable than the Spartan apartment I'd been living in, and finally started paying myself a salary commensurate with my position. Throughout this period, contact with my family increased gradually. My mother began sending care packages to my office. My sister occasionally texted to share news about her children. My father remained distant but no longer actively dismissive. Progress of a sort. Then came 2008. The financial crisis hit many of our clients hard, particularly those in construction-adjacent industries. Orders slowed dramatically, then stopped altogether from some long-time customers. Over a terrifying 3-month period, our revenue dropped by 40%. We had cash reserves. I'd always been conservative with our finances, but not enough to weather a prolonged downturn without changes. I faced the hardest decision of my entrepreneurial journey: lay off workers who had helped build the company or risk the entire enterprise collapsing under fixed costs we could no longer support. In the end, I chose a third option. I gathered our entire workforce and laid out our situation with complete transparency, our financials, projections, challenges, and options. Then I proposed an alternative: across-the-board pay cuts, including a 50% reduction in my own salary and those of all executives, shorter work weeks, and a profit-sharing plan that would repay everyone's sacrifices once we returned to profitability. I'm not asking anyone to vote, I concluded. Those who can't accept these terms can take a generous severance package. No judgment, no hard feelings. But I believe in what we've built together, and I believe we'll come through this stronger if we face it as a team. I expected to lose at least a third of our workforce. In the end, only 4 people took the severance offer. The loyalty stunned me and reinforced my determination to navigate us through the crisis. We pivoted hard, targeting industries less affected by the recession: medical devices, essential infrastructure, military applications. We developed new products specifically designed for these markets. We streamlined operations, eliminating waste without compromising quality. Every employee contributed ideas for cost-saving measures, some of which led to permanent efficiency improvements. By mid-2009, we had not only stabilized but begun growing again. By the end of 2010, we had exceeded our pre-recession revenue and restored full salaries, along with retroactive bonuses, fulfilling our promise to repay the team's sacrifices. It was during this recovery period that I received the call that would bring my family's journey full circle. "Daniel, it's Dad." His voice sounded older, strained in a way I hadn't heard before. "What's wrong?" I asked immediately, knowing he wouldn't call without reason. "The factory, they're closing. Moving everything to Taiwan." He paused. 3 months' notice, that's all. After 31 years. My father was 59, too young to retire comfortably, too old to easily find comparable work in a shrinking manufacturing sector. The factory closure would affect dozens of families in our extended community, many of whom had known no other employment. "I'm sorry," I said, meaning it. Despite our differences, I understood what the job meant to him: stability, identity, purpose. "Your uncle says." He hesitated. "He says you might be hiring. That your company is doing well." The request hung unspoken between us. My father, who had declared my business doomed from the start, was now hoping it might provide his salvation. "We're always looking for experienced manufacturing personnel," I said carefully. "Would you be interested in sending me your resume?" The silence stretched between us. "I don't know how to make one of those," he finally admitted. "Never needed one before." "I can help with that," I offered. "Or you can come tour our facility, see if it's something you'd be interested in." 2 weeks later, my father walked through the doors of Precision Partners for the first time. I watched his expression as he took in our state-of-the-art equipment: the clean, organized production floor, the engaged employees collaborating on complex projects. His face showed confusion, then surprise, then something else, a grudging respect I'd never seen directed at me before. By the end of the tour, he was asking technical questions, engaging with our master machinists about their processes, examining finished components with the practiced eye of someone who had spent a lifetime in manufacturing. In my office afterward, he sat silently for a long moment. "This isn't what I expected," he finally said. "What did you expect?" "I don't know. Something smaller. Less impressive." He gestured vaguely. "You really built all this?" With a lot of help, I acknowledged. But yes, this is what we've built. He nodded slowly. And you think there's a place here for an old-school guy like me? We have a position opening in quality assurance that would benefit from your experience, I said. The manufacturing processes may be different from what you're used to, but the fundamentals of quality control haven't changed. Working for my son, he mused, shaking his head. Never thought I'd see the day. You'd be working with me, I corrected. For Precision Partners. Same as everyone else. He considered this. Your mother worries about how hard you work. Says you never take time off. Building something takes sacrifice. Yes, he agreed, surprising me. I'm beginning to see that. My father wasn't the only one from the closing factory who joined Precision Partners. We hired 15 experienced workers, creating a dedicated division for their expertise and launching a formal knowledge transfer program where they mentored younger employees while learning our advanced techniques. By 2015, Precision Partners had grown to over 200 employees across 3 facilities, with annual revenue exceeding $30 million. We had expanded into international markets, developed proprietary technology that competitors couldn't easily replicate, and established ourselves as industry leaders in specialized manufacturing. More importantly, we had created a company culture that valued innovation, quality, and people. Our retention rates were among the highest in the industry. During economic downturns, we protected jobs. During prosperous periods, we shared success through profit sharing and advancement opportunities. My father worked with us for 5 years before retiring, eventually heading our quality control department. He never explicitly admitted he had been wrong about my pipe dream, but he didn't need to. The evidence surrounded us daily. At his retirement party, held in our main production facility, I watched him proudly giving family members tours, explaining our processes and introducing them to his team. My mother squeezed my hand as we observed from a distance. He talks about the company constantly, she confided. To anyone who will listen. My son's company, he calls it. It's his company too now, I replied. He's contributed significantly. No, she shook her head. It's always been yours. We just didn't see it until it was too big to ignore. Later that evening, after most guests had departed, my father found me in my office reviewing production schedules for the following week. Still working? He asked, leaning against the doorframe. Always something to do, I replied. He entered and took a seat across from me, placing an envelope on my desk. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a faded newspaper clipping, a photo of me at age 10, standing behind a lemonade stand. The local paper had done a small feature on my entrepreneurial spirit after I donated half my profits to our school's library fund. Your mother saved it, he explained. I found it when we were cleaning out some old boxes. I studied the image of my younger self, proudly displaying a handwritten sign with tiered pricing and a money-back satisfaction guarantee. You were always different, my father continued. Always seeing opportunities the rest of us missed. He cleared his throat. I thought I was protecting you, pushing you toward security. I was wrong. The admission hung in the air between us, more meaningful for how difficult it must have been for him to voice. Thank you, I said simply, for the chance to prove it. He nodded, understanding all that remained unspoken between us. 73 families, he said, echoing my grandmother's words from years earlier. Now it's over 200. 200 families with futures because you had the courage to ignore my advice. He stood and extended his hand formally. I rose and took it, but pulled him into an embrace instead. For a moment, he stiffened in surprise, then returned the hug with unexpected fierceness. I'm proud of you, Iho, he whispered. I should have said it sooner. Today, Precision Partners employs over 350 people across 5 facilities in 3 countries. Our client list includes some of the world's most innovative companies. We've weathered economic downturns, supply chain disruptions, and intense competition by staying true to our founding principles: quality, innovation, responsiveness, and respect for our people. My family now proudly claims they always knew I would succeed, selective memory at its finest. My mother shows visitors the awards and magazine features framed in her living room. My siblings bring their children to tour the facilities, pointing out how Uncle Daniel built all this from nothing. Sometimes I think about that night I left home with everything I owned in a duffel bag, my father's words ringing in my ears. You're throwing your life away. I wasn't throwing anything away, I was reaching for something they couldn't yet see. The greatest satisfaction isn't proving doubters wrong. It's creating something of lasting value that transforms not just your own life, but the lives of everyone it touches. My pipe dream didn't just support my family when they needed help, it created a legacy of opportunity for hundreds of others. Sometimes the most meaningful success comes from the dreams others tell you to abandon. Sometimes you have to leave home to find your path. And sometimes, if you're fortunate, that path eventually leads you back home, not as the person who left, but as the person you were always meant to become.